So unless you've been living under a rock recently, you'll probably have noticed that storage space is getting a bit more expensive. Whether that's your SD card or your hard drive, your SSD, whatever it might be, it's getting a bit pricey. So rather than throw money at the problem, how about we look at reducing the size of our ROM library so we can get even more without spending any extra cash? Let's get started. So just before we get started, I will be doing all of this on my PC. So if you're emulating on something like an AY Thor or an Odin or a Retroid and Android-based device, there are some apps which will do some of the conversions. However, it will be much easier and much faster for you to do it on your computer, your MacBook, Linux, whatever you're using. There are a lot more solutions available, and also it will just make the whole process a lot simpler if you follow along with exactly what I'm doing. So firstly, and perhaps most simply, we're going to use 7-zip to take our cartridge-based ROMs, so that's our Game Boy, our Genesis, our N64, any cartridge-based ROMs you can think of, with the exception of the 3DS and the Nintendo Switch. We'll cover those later. So we're going to use a script that I wrote, and it's going to use 7-zip to quickly loop through all your games and compress them into zip folders. So if you're not familiar with 7-zip, it's a great utility, it's completely free. All you need to do is, if we go to our browser and we go to 7zip.org, it'll take you straight there, and then all you need to do is download the relevant version for your operating system. So in my case, I'm using Windows, so I download this Windows version and install it. You can see it's absolutely tiny. It's 1.6 meg. It'll take no time at all. Once that's installed, you'll notice that if you right-click on a folder, you should see this little 7-zip option on the menu. So we could add it to archive, or add to gba.7zip or gba.zip and do each one manually. However, I've got a folder full of 1,527 games, all legally dumped from my own personal copies. So instead, what I did is I created this script, which is much simpler. So what I'm going to do is show you how to use it. So we'll take our script. So you have to put this in the same folder as the game. So I'm just going to drag it in. So if I scroll right down to the bottom, or if I sort by type and scroll down to the bottom, probably easier, or just reverse it. So at the top there, we've got RomZipper.bat. So all we're going to do is double click this. You'll get this terminal window pop up, and what it's going to do is quickly loop through all the games in that folder, or all the files in that folder, and for each one, it's going to create a unique zip file. So this isn't a native feature of 7-zip, unfortunately, which is why I've had to create the script. So I'm going to let this run through, and we'll come back shortly, and we'll see the before and after file sizes and work out how much we've saved. So that's all done now. That took about 3-4 minutes, wasn't long at all. I've got 1,500 games. For you, it'll probably be a couple of seconds for it to process all of yours. So what I've done as well is, the way I've edited the script is, before it starts converting them, it will create a folder to drop them all in. So it'll take the name of the current folder, and then it will add compressed at the end of it. So keeps everything nice and tidy. So just as an example of how much space we've saved, I'm going to take that folder and put it next to our original folder. So I'm going to right click on properties. So for our original Game Boy Advance folder with all our unzipped games, 11.5 gigabytes of data. For our compressed folder, 5.68. So nearly 50% we've saved just by doing that. And this will not affect performance whatsoever. These are designed to work with RetroArch, so RetroArch is able to see the contents of the zip files, so you won't notice any difference in terms of performance, but you will notice a lot of space saved. So like I said, this will work for Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, DS, Genesis, Master System, basically any cartridge-based systems. The disc-based systems, we have something a little bit different, which we'll cover now. So for disc-based systems like your PS1, PS2, PSP, Sega Saturn, Dreamcast, they can use a file type called CHD, or compressed hunks of data. So we're going to use a utility to convert those. There are a couple of options to go through, and then I'll do a little comparison and we'll see how much space I've managed to save. So we're going to go to this link here. I'll pop the link in the description. So this is Zulux91's GitHub, and this is a version of an app called NamDHC. So this was an older app which kind of got abandoned, whereas this person has taken it and updated it so it's compatible with the latest versions of CHD Man and things like that. So all you need to do is go to the releases, you get the latest release, and we need both of these files here, the CHD Man exe and the NamDHC exe. We'll download both of those. They're only small, so it'll take a couple of seconds. Go to our downloads. So here we have both files. So they need to be together in the same folder for it to work. So CHD Man, even though it's an exe, it's not going to do anything if you click it. But NamDHC will reference it when it's doing the processing. So CHD Man handles the actual conversion. So I'm just going to pop a little folder called NamDHC. And I'm just going to keep them both together. You don't have to do that, but it's nice to keep things tidy. So let's open up NamDHC. You'll get this warning, but who cares? The government's already got your data. What more can they do with it? So you'll see this is if you've used CHD Man before, like I used to, it used to be a command line based utility, whereas this is a nice GUI. So we have a few more options and it's a bit more interactive. So you can add multiple files, you can add a folder. I'm just going to do one game just as an example. So if I do press all the PlayStation folder, and we'll just pick 2 Extreme. We're going to pick that 2 Extreme Q file, and then we're going to go to, I'm going to select an output folder for this. I'm just going to pop it back in my downloads just nice and quickly. So we have different media types here. So we have CD image and DVD image. So these are the only ones we're concerned about. I know that DVD images are what you tend to use for PS2. I believe there is potentially some compatibility issues with this with regards to certain emulators. I believe Nether SX2 doesn't read the DVD images. It still converts them to CHD, but it's the kind of the way it's processed internally that it has an issue with. Personally, I've not had that issue myself, so your mileage may vary, but just something to be aware of. If you try it with a DVD image and your emulator doesn't like it, give CD image a try, or vice versa. But for PS1 games, they were all on CDs, so we don't need to worry about that. So I'm just going to leave it on CD image. My output folder's set. You can enable some of these options. For example, you can create a directory for each job. So if you want to kind of keep things organized, you can do it that way. You can force overwrite if there's already an existing file there. You can delete the original files, which is something I'd advise. So I'll show you shortly, but I have a PlayStation 1 library of about 2,000 games, which is a considerable size sync. So if you don't have that much space on your computer, you can use this option. And what it'll do is every time it processes the job, provided it hasn't failed, it will delete the source file and you'll just be left with that lovely teeny weeny CHD file. I'm going to leave that unticked for now. I'm just going to hit create CHD. So for PS1 games, they take maybe 10-15 seconds on average. Obviously, it depends on your processor power. There we go. Oh, it's a very lovely little jingle we get as well. So if you've got tons, you can see a report as well. You can also add a folder. I believe it's also recursive, so if you have folders within folders, it should detect them automatically. So what I will do is so there's our CHD file. So what I'll show you is my original PlayStation folder. That's this one. So this takes up 908 gigabytes of space. That's quite a lot. That's for 2,000 games. If any of you kids are British and born in the 90s and remember Art Attack, here's one I made earlier. So in my ROMs folder, we go to my PSX folder. These are the ones I already converted. The exact same amount of games. However, this folder takes up 515 gigabytes. So I've saved, what, 400 gig? Which is a whole SD. It's a whole hard drive. It's a massive amount of space. I'm probably going to go through and remove some of these games because I highly doubt I'm actually going to play most of them. But I thought, as an extreme example, just to see the amount of space you can save, then it's well worth it. So again, this works for PS1, PS2, PSP, Saturn, and Dreamcast. Now, let's take a look at GameCube and Wii. So for GameCube and Wii games, the Dolphin emulator, which is one of the probably longest running and also best emulators going, it actually has an internal compressor inside it. So you can take your ISO files, which are your DVD images, and you can convert them to an RVZ file, which is a bespoke Dolphin specific file. So you get full compatibility, and the space saving on some of these games is pretty insane. So it's nice and easy to use. So I'll flip back over to my desktop, and we're gonna, if you haven't already got Dolphin installed, we're gonna go get it. So just put in Dolphin emulator. Make sure you spell Dolphin right. If not, just trust Google to fix it for you. So dolphin-emu.org. Go to download Dolphin. Again, get your most relevant version. For me, I will just get the most recent release version. If you want to live on the edge a bit, you can also get some of these development versions as well, especially if you keep an eye on these retro achievements, which are due to go live in about 2 weeks. So I can't wait for that. So once that's downloaded, I'm going to head back to my downloads folder. I'm going to extract it here. There we go. And I'm going to boot it up. Go away, Microsoft. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to set my games directory. So for this example, I've kept everything in a specific folder. My GameCube here, so I've got all my GameCube ISOs in there. So there's all my games, and you can see, if you look here, they are all 1.36 gig, which is the exact size of the tiny little discs which the GameCube games used to live on, which underrated format and very adorable. So what we can do, you can do this one at a time. Again, I don't advise it. You've got stuff to do. We've all got stuff to do. Control A, I'm going to select them all. I'm going to right click and then convert selected files. So you'll see here the format is RVZ. You can convert them. You can convert them to other files. Just leave it on RVZ. RVZ is specifically for Dolphin, and it's the most efficient. It's a great file format. Compression level you can leave at 5. All these you can leave at standard. And then we are gonna click convert, and then I'm gonna, for my output file, I'm gonna go to where's my GameCube folder again? I don't have one. I'm going to make a GameCube folder. I'm going to pop them in there. So this is going to run through. Again, these probably take 5 seconds each or so. They don't take long at all. And for some of them, I know Animal Crossing especially is crazy, the amount of space it can save. Some of them are, and like all compression, some of them will have little savings, some of them will have considerable savings, but it all adds up. So let's come back shortly and we'll compare our original folder size to our new folder size. Okay, there we are. So all my games are converted. The process is the exact same for Wii games, by the way. You just select them all and then convert them. So let's go to my file browser. So here is where it's exported them all. As you can see here, I've got all my RVZ files, and there's my original folder. So my original folder, 107 games, 145 gig. My new folder, 107 games, 88 gig, which is about 60 gig saving off the top of my head. I can't do maths very well. About 50, 55, 60 gig saving. But one thing that amazes me for some of these, if we go into that GameCube one, So if you look at Animal Crossing, the original ISO size, obviously you can see there, they're all the same file size just because it's a full dump of the disk image, 1.4 gig down to 87 megabytes, which is crazy. And these run perfectly, so there must have been a ton of junk data in there. So that's a nice, easy way to convert your games. So there isn't any built-in option to delete the games after conversion. So you can just get rid of the folder once you're done. But because it's so quick, it's the kind of thing you wouldn't really mind doing one at a time. So that's it for GameCube and Wii games. So I want to talk about Switch and 3DS compression in particular. To start off with some bad news, for Switch emulation, you might have seen NSZ files floating around that are a lot smaller than the NSP files. They are great for being able to download the games quicker, but your emulators can't support them natively. So unfortunately, you still have to convert them to a different file type, which will be larger in size. However, on the bright side, if you've also been using these techniques I've covered in this video and you've saved a ton of space for your retro games, that will give you more space to play around with for your more modern games like those on the Switch. So I didn't want to end on a negative note, so I want to show you about 3DS compression. Now, for those of you who have been using Azuha, either on your desktop or your AYN Thor, Azuha has a built-in compressor which works excellently. So what I'm going to do is flip over to my Thor and I will show you the Azuha compressor. So we're going to open up Azuha and then we'll do Metal Gear Solid. So if I press and hold, you'll see you get this little pop-up menu and then this button at the bottom that says compress. We're just going to give that a little tap. It'll ask you where you want to save it. So I'm just going to save it in the same folder as my 3DS ROMs. We'll give that, probably takes about 15-20 seconds or so, doesn't take too long. I imagine this is quicker on the Windows version. So there we go. So as you can see, I've got my original version, which ends 3DS. And then my new version, which is .zcci. So if I go over to my folder and refresh it, so you'll see it's gone from 4 gig here to 2.4 gig, so 1.6 gig. And if you've got a ton of 3DS games and you're saving 1.6 gigabytes per game, then you're going to have more than enough storage to add those extra Switch games that I mentioned earlier. So that is 3DS games. So that's it for now for compressing your ROMs and keeping those libraries as small as possible. If there's anything I missed or something you'd like me to cover in future, please let me know in the comments. As always, you can support the channel by liking, commenting, subscribing, tell your friends, and I'll see you next time.